Hello BookTube, it's Roz. Now, I'm going to rather gingerly do that very sort of booktubery thing that I never do of picking up a big pile of books and saying, oh look, here's my enormous TBR. I'm really relieved I didn't drop them that time, especially as a load of them are library books. So, I'm a bit excited because it's the end of March and I've really firmed up my plans for what I'm going to read for People April, which is a readathon that I'm co-hosting with Elizabeth of Books and Books that's all about reading non-fiction about real life people, you know, memoirs, biographies, letters, journals, all that. So this is my April TBR, which is kind of majoring on People April with a side order of two other readathons that are happening this month. Picture This and Transgirl April. So I'm going to start by just saying something about both of those. Transgirl April is hosted by Kevvie of Say Kevvie and Willow of Books and Bow, and they've asked us to read things by trans authors and non-binary authors, but also, and quite specifically, to speak out about the horrendous kind of fascistic backlash that there is at the moment towards trans people and about trans rights, that, you know, those of us that don't agree with that really need to call out and be vocal about, so that it to counter the bad, counter the negativity by you know, voices of allies. So I'm doing just that, and I'm going to read one thing that is in this pile. It's a Transgirl April read, but the other thing I'm going to flash at you is Felix Ever After, which is the Transgirl April group read. And because April is all about People April for me, I've read this just this week, so just before the start of the month, and I'll talk about it more in my March wrap up. But it's a lovely YA book, and yeah, think about look at the Transgirl April announcement videos and think about maybe reading this one. Picture This is encouraging us to discover, rediscover, revisit the gorgeousness of picture books, and, you know, picture books not just for children, because most picture books are also read by adults to children, as Shelly was pointing out in her announcement video. Shelly, not Shellyish, Shelly's her name. So the hosts of Picture This are Shelly of Shellyish and Jack of Spread Book Joy, and there's a couple of books in here that are my Picture This choices, but I'll link to their announcement videos too. So let's get to People April. Elizabeth and I, came up with 4 prompts, and the idea is that they're used very loosely, creatively, you know, how you like, really, any old how. And everything that I'm reading, I'm linking to one of those 4 prompts, and the way I do that may, I hope, give you a bit of inspiration of how you could use the prompts if you want to. And it's absolutely fine to pick just, you know, one book, and maybe see if you can squeeze it into all 4. Who knows? Okay, so prompt number 1, and these are all uncertain or apocryphal or misattributed sayings or quotations. And the first is by Sappho, the ancient Greek poet, and it's like a fragment supposedly attributed to her. Someone will remember us even in another time. Now that opens up all sorts of possibilities around memoir. She was a poet, so anything to do with artists and poets, anything to do with ancient Greece, anything LGBTQIA plus, because, you know, she's lesbian, as far as we know, all those things. What could be a better choice for that prompt than this? So it's a memoir, it's by a poet, and a poet that is lesbian. So perfect stuff. It's also a book that I've been meaning to read for a couple of years now, and it's Red Dust Road by Jackie Kay. Now, this is the story, you know, it says in the blurb, when Jackie Kay was a little girl, there came a moment when she realised her skin was a different colour from that of her mum and dad. Growing up in Glasgow, her childhood was filled with love, but she realises that she needs to seek out her birth parents, despite her loving adoptive white parents, because she needs to do that to kind of understand herself fully. Now, that kind of summary of the book might have actually slightly turned me off sometimes. I'm not into a certain sort of memoir that's down the, oh, look at my difficult experiences, But Jackie Kay is the most tremendous poet. I love her poetry. I've also read her novel, Trumpet, which is superb. And I know that she will bring that wit and that way with words to her memoir. So I'm tremendously looking forward to this one. Second choice for that prompt for me is Are You My Mother by Alison Bechdel. She says, Are You My Mother? A comic drama. Bechdel or Bechdel, I'm not sure which way it's pronounced, has kind of written her autobiography in 3 volumes, taking different aspects, and I really enjoyed Fun Home, which is kind of her story but also her father's story, and this one is about her mother and her relationship with her mother, and about her life as an artist, another lesbian artist in fact, who almost like having the artistic life and identity that her mother perhaps would have liked to have had and didn't, I think. Anyway, looking forward to this one. Graphic, comic strip style, and I know she's good. So that's my 2 for prompt 1. Prompt number 2 is Let Them Eat Cake, totally apocryphally attributed to Marie Antoinette. She never said any such thing. It was already around as a saying, and actually it isn't cake anyway in the original French. It's brioche. But anyway, that's by the by. That opens up so many options, doesn't it? War, revolution, France, people caught up in great events, women, celebrities, royalty. Welsh your oyster. I've gone with the people caught up in sort of turmoil and big events option, because I'm going to read The Fixer by Joe Sacco. Now, Joe Sacco is a kind of like a journalist, but using the comic or graphic style to do his sort of, almost documentary books. This one is more biography, though, than most of his books, because it's about the life of the person who was his fixer when he was in Sarajevo and Bosnia at the end of the Bosnian conflict, the Bosnian War, and fixers were the people that kind of took the journalists around and made things possible for them, but he actually finds out about him as a person and uses that to write this story. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll see if I want to read more by Joe Sacco subsequently. Now, Elizabeth and I said that this is not just about biography and memoir in whatever format, that letters and diaries and journals were totally appropriate for People April. So I thought I'll try and throw in one of those. And I realised that this was the perfect excuse to pick up and read some more of Jane Austen's letters. Now, why does that fit with prompt number 2? Well, if you didn't know, Jane Austen's cousin was Elizabeth or Eliza, and she was married to a French count, and who was guillotined in the French Revolution, and Eliza and their son Hastings had to kind of flee France, and Eliza actually ended up then later marrying Jane's brother Henry Austen. So she's very much Jane's connection with the French Revolution. So I won't read all of this. I'm kind of working my way gradually through Jane Austen's letters. I think, a book of letters, it lends itself to being dipped in and out of, doesn't it, rather than read cover to cover. Then I've got a third book for prompt number 2, because it's one of my Picture This choices. Now, one of my absolute favourite illustrators of children's books is Michael Foreman. I read so many books illustrated by him and some written by him to my children when they were little, and he has a very sort of distinctive style. You can see it on the cover there, or there's a lovely example of how he draws and paints. It really is kind of, yeah, I think it's pen and ink and watercolor. Although, you know, how would I know? Because, you know, I'm not an illustrator or an expert on that. But when I realised that Michael Foreman had written a memoir of his childhood in picture book style, that was a must for combining these two readathons for me. So this is War Boy, A Wartime Childhood, and it fits with prompt 2 because obviously it's a story of a time of war and, you know, being caught up in, yeah, big events. On to prompt number 3. Now, prompt number 3 is have patience, go where you must go, and hope, which sounds just like the kind of thing that Martin Luther King might have said, but he didn't. And that lends itself to so many things, doesn't it? Journeys, travels, writing, civil rights, things about racism, just things about, you know, doing what you need to do, and perseverance, and you know, finding your way in life. I don't know, so many options. And my second Picture This choice fits with this prompt. It's called Listen, How Evelyn Glennie, a Deaf Girl, Changed Percussion. And if I read you the very first page of the book, you'll see why I felt it fitted with this prompt. So it says, this is a story of music, of obstacles, of strength and hard work, of all you can accomplish when you dream, if you find your own way to listen. There you go. It also fits with one of the Picture This prompts, which is yellow. There's definitely a yellow aesthetic about this one. And I'm really interested in knowing more about Evelyn Glennie, the percussionist, deaf percussionist. From picture book to rather more sort of heavyweight, chunky history, biography, family history, memoir, bit of travel thrown in book, Blood Legacy, Reckoning with a Family's Story of Slavery by Alex Renton. So Alex Renton discovered that his family wealth came in part from his forebears owning slave plantations in the Caribbean, and this book is kind of, I suppose, his journey finding out more about that. I would say coming to terms with it, but that's sort of, it's wrong, I suppose, for the sort of white person to come to terms with their family's involvement with slavery. It's more about, I suppose, him exploring what accountability and reparation might be involved in realizing that that's your family history. And it fits in so many ways with this prompt, including the fact that it's in part a story. It's a personal journey, but also a physical journey, because he goes to Trinidad and Tobago, you know, where his family's owned slaves. Yeah, that's 2 choices for prompt 3. Number 3 is also a Transgirl April choice, and that's None of the Above by Travis Alabanza. Quite a new book. I think it came out in 2022. Yeah, and Alabanza is a sort of trans non-binary. Well, I think they describe themselves as visibly gender non-conformist. Performer, writer, and this is about being black, working class, non-binary trans person through, so a memoir of sorts, but through 7 sentences that, hence the none of the above, that have been thrown out. I think he uses he, him, not they. I should have checked that, and apologies. Yeah, I can tell that if I look, can't I? No, them. Yeah, phrases that have been thrown at them or used at them, you know. And, you know, like, so when did you know? Or, but I mean proper trans, or this ain't a thing we do around here, son. And using those as a way into sort of talking about their experiences. I'm really looking forward to this one. Final prompt, number 4. Stupid is knowing the truth, seeing the truth, but still believing the lies. Totally falsely attributed to Morgan Freeman. And we don't actually know who originally said it, but he certainly never did. Anyway, this opens up loads of possibilities around truth, lies, and hence anything, you know, political, I guess. Anything about, you know, contested versions of history, anything, but also acting, the theatre, films, you know, again, loads of options. And my kind of main choice for this prompt is our People April group read, the 5, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper. Fits with the prompt because these 5 women have so often been misrepresented, you know, either treated as sort of faceless victims of Jack the Ripper or described somehow as just prostitutes. So this book is giving them back their individuality and, you know, were they sex workers? And if so, how did they come into that life? What was the rest of their life about? Who were they really? And let's focus on them rather than this obsession with Jack the Ripper. So if you want to join the group read, I'll give details down below, and there's sort of a announcement video just for that I can link to. So you're very, very welcome to join in and join the Voxer group. Now, the final thing, if I get through all of that and I have any time left at all, along with finishing my March Mammoth and, you know, the other bits and pieces I'm reading at the moment, then my final choice for the final prompt is that I want to try and read at least one of Deborah Levy's three short kind of volumes of autobiography, except they're not really chronological. You know, you can read them in any order. So I might read Things I Don't Want to Know, or I might read The Cost of Living, which is one and 2. It fits the prompt because Freeman's an actor, and Deborah Levy is now sort of really known and recognised as, if in recent years, as a novelist, but her kind of main writing career has been as a playwright. So yeah, it seems to fit. So that's my TBR, all, you know, very sort of one way or another tied into our 4 prompts. I would love to hear more about what you're hoping to read in People April. Just one book, if you like. Even, you know, it could be one biographical picture book for all that. And so do share and do make videos about what you read if you can, if you want, and use the hashtag People April, or stick something on Instagram, or, you know, whatever you fancy. But I'm really looking forward to hearing lots of people enjoying these options. And also Transgirl April and Picture This.